there, it's that Midwestern mom. And yep, you saw that correctly. I am engaged to be married to a man. And don't worry, you didn't miss anything, because I decided after my last relationship ended and that London Vogue article came out about how embarrassing it is to have a boyfriend, I was going to keep my dating life off the internet. And don't you know, all those cliche phrases about it comes when you least expect it. That's exactly what happened to me. So here's my meet cute story. Part 1 of how the heck did I find a man good enough to marry? So our story begins last summer when I decided to climb Pikes Peak. You know the spiel: healing after divorce, return to the places where you have cried so that you can laugh and have fun memories there instead of traumatic ones, don't you know? I wasn't even supposed to be in Colorado that week. I had planned it for a different time, but because of complications with childcare, etc., I bought my plane tickets right before I left and asked my best friend to come out and take care of my kid while I was climbing Pikes Peak. So remember that, that's important for later. I had to readjust when I was going and with whom I was going because of childcare complications. I wasn't even supposed to be there, right? I always thought I would have to import a husband to northern Minnesota, and so anytime I travel, I'm always swiping on the dating apps like it's my job. But of course, it had become a terrible habit, and so once I landed, I started swiping on the dating apps as my kid was playing at a playground. And I was just like, wait a minute, girl, you're in Colorado, you're about to climb Pikes Peak. You don't have time to go on a date. So I tried to make the conscious decision not to be on the dating app. However, I'm ADHD as can be, so of course in the evenings, what I do is I doom scroll on all the apps, answer some comments, and then check my messages on various dating platforms. Completely forgetting, of course, I promised myself not to be on the dating apps. This is the night before I'm supposed to be climbing Pikes Peak with a friend. I go through my various doom scrolling and I open up Bumble and I see that somebody has already liked me. They're rather handsome. They're a music teacher. They blurred out the faces of their children. I don't see one red flag on their dating profile. By the way, I've been dating for 4 years. I can see a red flag on a dating profile from a mile away. Anywho, then I remember I'm in Colorado with my child and I have no time to go on a date. Look at his profile again and I'm like, you know what? What the heck? Let's swipe right. I had no idea what I was expecting, but this man messaged me immediately, because if you answer prompts on Bumble that I have pre-provided, men are allowed to message first. And then if I accept that message, then they can continue talking with me within 24 hours. So thankfully, I stayed awake long enough to answer his message. Sadly, I did not keep that message, but it said something about what's your fach, which if you don't know that, I'm an opera singer. It states it on my dating profile. So he was asking, what type of soprano are you? You read my entire dating profile, sir? You read the whole thing? You know what a fach is? You know what a soprano is? I mean, I know you're a music teacher, but you asked a question? So I responded to him that I'm a lyric soprano and I would sing a role such as Mimi or Tosca. So he admitted that that was the end of his opera knowledge, but then he asked a follow-up question. This man asked a follow-up question. Do you have any idea how long I had been on the dating apps and how long it has taken somebody to ask me a follow-up question in a reciprocal conversation? This man asks, since you went to Johns Hopkins, does that mean you went to Peabody Music Conservatory? You read my entire profile, including the small print, like where I went to university? You read my whole profile? You asked a follow-up question? I laughed and I said, yes, I went to Peabody Music Conservatory for my undergrad, and then I finished with my master's at the University of Maryland's Opera Studio. And then I promptly fell asleep. And then I climbed Pikes Peak for 2 days with no signal. I left the would-be love of my life on red while I climbed a mountain for 2 days with the first guy I ever went on a date with post-divorce. Everybody meet Jason. Are we still following along? I had asked my friend Jason, whom I've been friends with for almost 5 years, if he would help me climb Pikes Peak, because I am a hiker, I am not a camper. And so he did all the arrangements, he did all the executive function, he did all the packing. I just had to show up and climb a mountain. That is the kind of friend that I love and need. Yes, I know I'm digressing from the topic of the love of my life and now telling you about my journey up Pikes Peak. Sorry, you got to stay with me because it's important. It was much hotter in Colorado Springs than we intended, and I did not research this hike. I should have, but it always scares me, and so I don't. If I would have researched, I would have known that the first eighth of the trail is probably some of the hardest elevation gains that you're going to have in the entire trail. And I stupidly didn't train with my backpack on. I just trained with a weighted vest. And so as I'm climbing up the mountain in wildfire season and there's smoke coming at you in all directions and it's almost 100 degrees, I feel like my backpack is suffocating me and I can't breathe and I have a full-blown panic attack. Because why? Because trauma. Because Colorado was smelling like Colorado, bringing me back to when I used to live in Colorado. And so I am bawling on Pikes Peak. I am bawling about how I missed out on such a life in Colorado because I didn't have the time and money and energy, and I was so depressed with postpartum depression, and it wasn't fair that Colorado smelled like Colorado. And Jason is being very kind and, patting my head and giving me water and taking off my backpack. All of a sudden I look at him and I say, and you ruined dating for me because you were such a wonderful first date. How the heck am I ever going to find somebody as good as you? This poor man looks at me like, how the heck did I get into this? I go on to explain that you were such a kind and loving and caring human being and a wonderful educator and a wonderful father. And don't you know, it would be nice to find somebody like you, but if I were to be picky, maybe a musician. I mean, at least appreciate music enough to speak most of my languages. And for heaven's sakes, do you have any idea how bad it is out there? I am going to come back to how important this moment is because I swear to goodness gracious, I was standing on a crystal on that mountain that day. However, I'm going to continue to tell you how I climbed Pikes Peak. Somehow I made it to bar camp. It was really difficult. I was not adjusting well to the altitude. I had gotten a prescription the day before, but I didn't know I should have gotten that prescription to help me with altitude sickness and been taking it a few days before you start hiking. But then I camped overnight and I acclimated a little bit faster. Everything was okay. We start climbing the next morning. I want to throw this backpack off the side of the mountain, and Jason wouldn't let me leave it in a safety shelter for somebody who was stranded and needed a new sleeping bag. How rude, right? Because of the love and support of my good friend Jason, I made it to the top of Pikes Peak. He made sure I made it, including my backpack. I didn't have to chuck it off the side of the mountain. I really did beg him to let me do that, though. We got there as it started hailing on us. My best friend had driven to the top of Pikes Peak to pick us up and take us down. It was wonderful. Jason's partner met him at the top. They're adorable. They're cute. We had our awesome moment, and then we drove down, which takes forever, and we went out to dinner. Meanwhile, remember, I left the would-be love of my life on red. For 2 days because I didn't have a signal. I don't know what made me think to check my Bumble messages. It was probably while we were waiting for food, and I'm still catching my breath from doing all of the things that I've done for the past couple of days. But I opened up Bumble to this message. Hey Amber, I'll be honest, I'm getting too old to beat around the bush. I'm flying back to this morning, but I really enjoyed getting to know you. Your profile reads like a checklist of green flags, and you keep getting more interesting the more we chat. I know a profile isn't the whole person, but it's enough to make me want to hear more of your story. On paper, maybe I should let it go, but the truth is I find you too fascinating. If you'd be open to a real conversation, I'd love to learn more about you and share some of my story too. If not, I completely understand and wish you all the best. I give my friends this message and they all look at me like, whoa. There's another message. I'm going to be a total dork and double message. I'm about to board a 14-hour-long flight home, and I realize my previous message didn't sound as playful and flirtatious as I meant to. Here are the messing emojis that are supposed to help convey my tone. Oh, a traumatized millennial that's worried about their tone being misunderstood in a text message? Shocking. I don't know what that's like at all. Laughy face, shruggy face, smiley face. Basically, I think you're cool enough to risk looking like a total clown. Worth it, though. All of my friends, Jason, his partner, and my best friend kind of looked at me like, you're gonna message him, right? Yeah, I'm gonna message him because that's the best message I've ever gotten a dating app in my life.
Oh, hi there, it's that Midwestern mom, and don't you know if I'm not in a muumuu or my pearls, you guys don't know who I am. So let's get back into costume and start off with part 2 of my meet cute story with the love of my life. If you're new here, you can click on this comment and it'll take you back to part 1. Last left off with the fact that he sent me a double message while he was getting onto an airplane flying 14 hours away, and I had left him on red for 2 days. And so I immediately messaged back, said, I'm flattered. Thank you very much. Let me know when you have service again. WhatsApp is probably best. And I immediately apologized for not being on the app and sent him pictures of climbing Pikes Peak. I also really apologize. I woke up this morning with a terrible cold, and so there might be some sniffling and mouth breathing. I'll try to edit it out. He had just gotten back home, and I needed to leave Colorado. And so we set up our first phone date for a few days after that. I don't know, but we kept texting via WhatsApp because, the sooner you get off of those dating apps, the less money they make, and that's the good thing. I was still very skeptical at this point. I think he might have been head over heels, not gonna lie, and he still says that. But I was still just like, meh, whatever happens, happens. It'll be a nice conversation and a very interesting person who happens to live in a very interesting place. I'm going to backtrack just a little bit and remind you how incredibly rare it was that I matched with this person, because remember, I wasn't supposed to be in Colorado that week. I had to change my plans to Colorado because of complications with childcare. We had a 2-day window to find each other on Bumble, to match, and to start communicating. The reason why our phones found found each other while we were both in Colorado Springs is because I had recently driven right by where he was at, because he was at the James Turrell Light exhibit and I was driving my kid to go see the troll that you had seen in the previous videos. So I had literally passed right by him, and then our phones were like, oh, hey, you guys should meet. That never happens on dating apps. I don't want to say that that's like, you know, so serendipitous and cutesy. Actually, it is serendipitous and cutesy because that doesn't happen. And then you find somebody and you're just like, oh, wow, they're really interesting. I sure hope they match with me. He still had hope. That is the reason why this worked. He had hope. He had only been on a dating app for 2 weeks. I had been on dating apps for 4 years. And so I was just like, whatever, that looks nice. Whatever happens, happens. But he left. I left. Our phones never would have synced up. We never would have met if I had not gone to Colorado at the exact same time that he had been in Colorado, and he was on his way back to work because he had been on his summer holidays in the US. Another thing that I forgot to tell you is I had actually logged back into said dating app to cancel my subscription and or delete my profile. And when I realized that my subscription still had a month left, I was like, I might as well leave it up. So I canceled the subscription and then I planned on deleting it later. Yes, I will admit that I was paying for a dating app, but that the reason being is because you can set your filters a lot higher. So you see a lot less undesirable stuff. Last night when we chatted and he listened to my video and he's just like, oh yeah, I can totally remember exactly where I was at in the airport when I double messaged you because I was so paranoid that I was going to look desperate. I wanted to look playful but not desperate, interested but not desperate. And that was the one thing that stood out to me. And most of the comments said, my husband, I met them and they were a double message as well. And we've been married for X number of years. And so don't let that throw you off. Don't let the modern dating game make you so jaded. I have been carrying the weight of conversations on dating apps for 4 years and I just don't try anymore. Like if they don't ask me a follow-up question, if they don't ask me something about my profile within the first 3 messages, I'm done. Like, I don't have time for that. Thankfully, now I don't ever have to do it again. I have just recently gone to visit him. And as we were talking about my flight path coming over, he remembered, oh yeah, I was on that same exact flight after I had, found you on the dating apps. I was complaining about needing to pay for internet and he remembered that he broke down and he paid for internet halfway through that flight to check his messages on the dating app. And I hadn't messaged him back yet. And he said, I was trying so hard to wait until I got all the way home and give you enough time and have it be an appropriate time. But I was just too excited. And he ended up paying $20 to get internet so he could check his dating app messages. I think we've covered all of the serendipitous cutesy moments that happened before we even had our first FaceTime. But we were messaging back and forth on WhatsApp. And I discovered that I knew where he was teaching because a friend of mine grew up there. I'm not going to tell you where yet because the shock factor is going to be fantastic. So I'm going to make you wait for that one. But my friend grew up in that same little community of international schools where he is currently teaching. So what did I do? I called up my friend and I said, hey girl, you got anybody on the ground still? I remember you talking about loving where you grew up, even though it was very, very, very far away from here. She was like, you're kidding. Of course I still have friends on the ground. Within the first 48 hours of matching and then subsequently talking to each other, not even before our first FaceTime, I was able to vet this man for who he really is. And he's a wonderful person from what I've been told by 2 separate families on the ground. What are the chances that I knew somebody that grew up in his same exact, international school community where he's currently living? Kind of freaky, don't you know? Have you ever actually vetted somebody through other people from a random Tinder or Bumble match, No, I sure haven't. So I honestly felt safer right away upon talking to my friend who grew up in this area of the world. I want to say that we had our first FaceTime very quickly after I got home from Colorado. And I remember thinking, oh, I have to call him at 8 o'clock in the morning. I should probably put on normal day clothes. I didn't. I wore my bluey pajamas and my bathrobe. Because I was just if this guy is as serious as he sounds, he's going to have to get used to what I look like straight out of bed in the morning and the fact that I am not a morning person anymore. And he said that was one of the things that made him fall in love with me so quickly. It was because I did not give 2 craps what I looked like when I was on FaceTime with him. I cannot remember when I told him if I was an influencer or not. He doesn't have any social media at all. And so he did say to me last night when we were chatting about it, he was just like, I didn't look you up on purpose. He downloads Instagram once a year to follow all the Eurovision song people, and then he deletes it. And so if that isn't a green flag, I don't know what is. Who else loves Eurovision? Oh, me. I don't remember if I asked asked him not to look me up, but he also said that I didn't want to look you up because I was enjoying getting to know the real you. And from what I could imagine of social media, you might not always put your, like normal standard everyday personality out there. So I was enjoying talking to you so much, I didn't want to get to know your social media personality just yet. And then he also mentioned you would talk about a story, go off on a tangent, and then be like, oh, I have an ice skating video to show you, or oh, I have a video to show you about turkey days in Frazee, or oh, you really need to know what I do. Here's a video about Minnesota salads that aren't really salads. He said that he was really enjoying getting the personally curated version of my social media. Number one, so that he could slowly get used to it, and number two, because it was backing up like who I was as a person as I was actually talking to him. That seems like a pretty big green flag to me. I don't know about you guys, but that was like really cute when he told me that about, 4 months later. This is the part of the story where I get a little bit confused where everything happens, because I've told you guys that we have vetted this man with real boots on the ground. Those two families that are still on the ground in that area of the world follow me because expats love my content. Because don't you know, it reminds them of being in the Midwest when they used to be home, for heaven's sakes. Plus, they're Mormons. Mormons love Jell-O salads. They just do, and funeral potatoes. They said, girl, come get your man. And if anything goes wrong, if you get any bad vibes whatsoever, we'll get you back to the airport. I already had blessings from my friend and their families on the ground over there. Meanwhile, my fiance was on his way to go out to coffee with his best friends of 12 years that have lived in that area of the world with him the entire time. So he pulls out his phone. He's like, you guys are never going to believe this. I downloaded a dating app when I was back in the United States on summer leave, and I matched with somebody. This photo from my social media was on my dating profile. And my favorite photo of all time, the red dress from Washington, D.C. So my fiance, of course, had taken some screenshots of my dating profile, which he later learned is like a faux pas, and he apologized for it. And he's just like, I should have asked permission for that. And I was just like, I did the same thing about you and was sending it to all of my friends, so I don't care. He gives his phone to his friends and says, I met somebody on Bumble while I was in Colorado. And his friend grabs the phone and goes, shut the front door! You're on a dating app for 2 weeks and you matched with that Midwestern mom? Is this real? Do you know who this person is? Turns out that his best friends of 12 years who have lived with him this entire time are from St. Cloud, Minnesota. For heaven's sakes. And they drive right past me when they go see their kid at school. And the creme de the creme, this is the year that they're retiring from said teaching job and moving back to Minnesota. So my fiance's best friends of 12 years will be 2 hours away from us. Oh, for cute! Chad immediately calls his wife and they start freaking out over the phone in a very Minnesota way. They have the cutest Minnesota accents and it's not even exaggerated. And they've been living abroad for 25 years. I think we had already made a plan for coming to meet him in his country, but where's the craziest place that you've ever gone for a first date? The Middle East? Yeah, that's where I went. Since our first FaceTime date, we talked every morning and every evening from that date moving forward. We haven't missed a day, even if it just had to be, shortened because I was working or he was working. It was many hours into FaceTime phone conversations when I said, I don't have anything against coming to meet you because otherwise we're going to have to wait until Christmas when you have time off that you can come here. This man said, say less, called his travel agent and booked me a plane ticket and said, no strings attached. I would really like to pay for this one because you have to travel all of the way. First of all, sir, you have a travel agent? Second of all, I was going to say, let's go have Z's on it, but yeah, sure. I'll let you pay for the plane ticket because don't you know, I do have to travel like 27 hours to get to you from Fargo, North Dakota. Plane tickets purchased. I needed to wait a month because I had to film with Sun Country. We did the Tennessee episode before I went. I needed to go to the Minnesota State Fair and I had to get my kids off to the first day of school. Does my mother know any of this information? No. And if you sent her this video, you don't get to follow me anymore. Because why? Because my mom is so used to just me leaving and going to go do gigs somewhere. She literally just wants the information of when she needs to pick up the kids and when she drops off the kids. She takes care of everything while I'm gone. Yes, I know my steak is too juicy and my lobster is too buttery, but I moved home to my village. I love my village. I love my parents. They are incredibly supportive. But mom stopped asking for details a long time ago because there were some times that I was under contract and I wasn't even able to tell her. Did my children have my location? Yes. Did my best friends have my location? Also, yes. But I had 2 contacts in the area. Please don't worry about me. Obviously, I'm still here, safe and alive, and I have an engagement ring. Another thing that I need to throw in there is my fiance said the most memorable detail about how we met is within the first few WhatsApp messages, I sent him a 14-minute voice memo explaining my best friend, Steven. If you don't remember my best friend, Steven, he is my gay best friend. For a long time, Google thought that we were married. He is from the Great British Bake Off, and we had just gone on a vacation together in all matching outfits in Greece. So the internet kept thinking that we were married, and I just had to tell him, Steven will know everything. Steven has my location all of the time. I talk to Steven all of the time. Just so you know, there has to be room in this relationship for my gay best friend. So before I tell you about actually getting on an airplane a month later and flying to the Middle East completely blinded by love, I got to tell you a few more green flags, because this man is throwing green flags left and right. And I go off on so many tangents. Oh my gosh, you guys haven't even noticed. He decided that since I'm a verbal processor and a visual processor, he needed to make a PowerPoint of all of my friends so that he knew who I was talking about when I told him stories. My PowerPoint is now 72 pages long, something like that. He also made his own PowerPoint for me so that I knew who he was talking about when he talked about his friends and his family. But every time there's a new character in my life, he updates the PowerPoint. Oh, for cute. I'm so sorry. I'm so in love, you guys. I'm a little bit disgusted with myself. It's so cliche, for heaven's sakes. So one of the things on my list of green flags is this man has widgets all over his phone, for a widget for the time zone that I'm in when I'm in Minnesota, and then a widget that changes when I'm traveling, when I'm working, and so that he always knows what time it is dependent on the location of me. And the man has never ever struggled with the fact that I am in a different time zone quite frequently. I can't tell you how many people I've dated that just could not keep up with the fact of, oh yeah, you're in this time zone. I didn't know what time to call you. Okay, bye. Sorry, I had to go get some tea. Lots of you wanted close-ups of my ring. Happy to show you. Love it so much. I'm not going to tell you the story yet, though. It is a lavender, purple, pink sapphire, because I prefer yellow gold. And those are moissanite. They're not diamond, because I didn't have any desire to be part of the diamond industry. And when I told my fiance that, he was like, oh my God, I love you even more. So let's just say we have a lot of shared moral values. Can't believe that I've completely glossed over the fact that this man is a musician. Remember when I was on the side of the mountain with Jason and I said, I want somebody exactly like you, but if I were to be picky, maybe they'd be a musician. But that was also the first concession I was willing to make. I didn't expect to meet a musician in my life, but now that I have a musician in my life, holy moly, has my world been turned upside down. Let's go back to Jason for just a second. Both my fiance and Jason are gingers. Both my fiance and Jason have 3 children of the same genders and very similar ages. Both my fiance and Jason are educators. Both my fiance and Jason have a lot of shared moral values. It's literally like the universe said, copy, paste, except for a version for her. Quite eerie. I feel like I was standing on a crystal on the side of that mountain. But getting back to the fact that it's rocking my world to be with a musician, I don't know how traumatizing most undergraduate degrees are, but music education and music performance degrees are a special level of, oh my gosh, you have to have regular normal classes on top of language requirements, on top of music theory, conducting practicums, pedagogy. All of these things have to be done on top of your normal required classes to get a college degree. So let's just say we had a lot to talk about. I don't want to take too much time on this because it's taken 20 years of therapy to unpack it, but a lot of my life I have felt like I was too much for everybody around me. Part of it's the Minnesota culture, and a lot of it was being with my ex-husband. But I have never been made to feel small in this relationship. I have never been made to feel like I was too much. I have, in fact, only been encouraged to talk more, to be even goofier, to be even sillier, and everything has been welcomed with a beaming smile of pride and adoration over the phone on FaceTime. So I was speaking so highly of this man. Steven even said, Amber Marie, you are not allowed to fall in love with this man before you even lay eyes on him in real life. Okay, Steven, I'm going to promise not to fall in love with him before I lay eyes on him. But I'm pretty sure I actually fell in love with him when he sent me one of his elementary music education videos from when he was teaching during COVID. Remember that double message that he thought was probably cringy and he was worried was too much? And that's one of the things that stands out in my mind. I'm pretty sure he's going to lose his mind, but this is one of the videos that he did for COVID.
And then it's your turn. Uno, dos, tres.
Edited, played all the instruments himself. Sending this music video was another thing that he thought was cringy and he was worried that I would think was too much. However, I'm pretty sure this is the moment that I might have fallen in love with him and I just wasn't willing to admit it to myself. There's another part of this story that I need to tell you, and it's not necessarily related to my meet cute story, but it is, so you got to stay with me. I had decided that the dating apps were BS, and that I was going to start my own series called The Search for That Midwestern Husband. And I was going to have women nominate men in their life that they thought should be like a good date for me, and they would write in like a letter or an essay or an email or something, and I would read them on my channel, and then maybe Sun Country would sponsor me to like go fly and have a date with this person. But women were the key in this. I wanted women to recommend men to me because, well, I'm traumatized. After my fiance told a few of his colleagues and his friends about me, the art teacher, who looks like a more professional version of Professor Trelawney, found me on Instagram and sent me exactly that. She sent me a massive recommendation letter of why he is such a wonderful person. His smile is just beaming from him because, you know, you guys have so much in common and you're perfect for each other, and I can hardly wait to meet you. His kids are wonderful. He's an amazing dad. He's an amazing teacher. Girl, get over here and hurry it up. I didn't want to trust another man until a woman told me it was okay to date him. And I will tell you this one fact, and you're not allowed to ask any more questions about it because that's my boundary that I'm setting. He's a widower. We've had therapy. We've talked about it extensively, and we are good to go. The kids will be with us full time, and I am super excited to get to know them and to be a step parent. Does that sound too harsh? Oh my gosh, I'm from Minnesota and I'm not really good at setting boundaries, but that's the boundary because that's his story to tell, and I'm only going to tell you my side of the story. There's one more adorable tangent that has happened over FaceTime. Grab the popcorn, grab the tissues, and be like, is this man for real? I am at the Minnesota State Fair. As you know, I put curlers in my hair when I'm in the vintage, that Midwestern mom character. I have the pearls, I've got the red lipstick, I've got vintage hair. My mom is a hairdresser of 50 years, and she usually puts the curlers in my hair. I sit under the hairdryer for several hours, I take them out, I spray them down, I drive down to the cities, doing several appearances days in a row, and so I take my hot rollers with and some of my Velcro curlers to do them on my own. My fiance is on FaceTime with me as I'm sitting in a hotel room by myself, putting curlers in my hair, and putting your hands all the way up here, and you're rolling your curlers down like this, and then you clip them on, and it's really hard on your arms. It's much easier when my mom does it because she's a hairdresser of 50 years and it takes her far less time to do it than it does me. So he's watching me on FaceTime, and I put a couple curlers in and I sit down and talk to him, and then I put a couple more curlers in and I sit down and talk to him, and he kind of squints and he's just like, that looks like that's really hard on your arms. Is that painful? Like, is that annoying? Does that hurt your arms? I was like, oh my gosh, it does. I kind of like, I don't get carpal tunnel, but my arms fall asleep. I love it when my mom does it, but I can't take my mom with me wherever I go. And so he kind of squints at me, but he goes, well, you could take me with you wherever you go. Do you think your mom could teach me how to do that? I have never been rendered speechless, hardly ever a day in my life. But this man, whom I have not met in person yet, we have only FaceTimed like, oh my gosh, countless hours, offered to learn how to put my curlers in. Because then he goes on to say, because if I was doing your curlers right now, you could be doing your makeup and you could get out of the house faster. I'm gobsmacked, of course. And so I'm just like, I don't want to say that it's easy because it's not. I've been doing it since I was like 12 because my mom taught me how, but it's a little bit like a puzzle. You know, you just got to get the coordination for it. I bet you could learn. And he goes, oh, I love puzzles. And then he shows me his collection of puzzles at home. There's a little touch of neurodivergency there, just enough to keep things exactly how I like them. The time has come to fly to the Middle East. Stay tuned tomorrow because I'm so tired. It's going to take me forever to edit this video. Don't you know, where's the craziest place you've ever gone for a first date? For me, it's been the Middle East. And here's part 3 of my meet cute story with my fiance. If you missed part 2, you can click on this comment and go back to it. Somebody, actually more than one somebody, has messaged my fiance saying, do you have something to tell us? I follow that Midwestern mom. Honestly, it constantly amazes me the reach that I have through this platform. He's not quite used to that because remember, he still doesn't have social media at this part in our story. I am finally flying halfway across the world to meet my fiance in the Middle East. He's originally from Southern California, so don't you worry, I'm not going anywhere. He's moving here. At this point in our story, we've been talking every single morning and every single night as much as humanly possible, even while I've been doing gigs like the Minnesota State Fair or filming with Sun Country. So I get on a very long flight path from Fargo and I land in Amsterdam with a pretty decent layover. And so raise your hand if you're an OG Marshmallow and you remember when I was stuck for more than 3 days at the Amsterdam airport when they didn't have enough people on the ground and the security lines took like 8 hours. Oh my gosh, that was quite a long time ago, but I got very familiar with that airport. So I booked the Mercure Hotel where you can take a shower in the airport because I got to buckle up for another 8-hour flight to where I'm going. I arrived in the middle of the night, which I was actually okay with because then I could just go take a nap. I've already purchased my visa. I go through immigration and customs with no problems whatsoever. He's been texting me this whole time, letting me know that he has already parked the car and he is ready and waiting for me. And I hear my name and I look to the side and this smile will forever be imprinted on my brain for the rest of my life. His smile completely lights up a room. I know you adorable little marshmallows say the same thing about me, which I really appreciate, but That smile will be permanently etched into my brain. And he comes walking towards me with my favorite flowers, purple tulips that are not in season, and he lives in the middle of the desert. He listened to what my favorite flowers are. I didn't directly tell him. He's just been listening to my stories for a month. He finds my favorite color flowers in the desert, not in season. So I'm already blown away and just kind of like in a whirlwind because I have just traveled 27 hours across the world to meet this man, and I'm completely enchanted by his adorable smile. But I'm not allowed to touch him. I also landed in a Muslim country, so it is not culturally appropriate to embrace or to kiss or to hold hands. And so we are not allowed to even touch each other yet. We walk out to the car, and the love of my life was worried about my flowers wilting in the desert heat, and he has a crystal vase in the car full of water in which he puts my tulips back into. A man that plans ahead, a man that has a vase, a man that thinks to bring it in the car so my flowers won't wilt. Let me just sit here and relive that moment because I had almost forgotten it because I'm so used to this kind of princess treatment. I had to look back at the pictures of the flowers. I forgot to tell you that the art teacher made these signs for me for when I arrived because she's now been following my social media. So freaking cute. I really don't know how much more I want to tell you because obviously I'm getting engaged to this guy, and obviously it was magic once I finally kissed him. It didn't feel like fireworks and it didn't feel like lightning. It felt like coming home, and it felt like being loved and accepted for the person that I truly am for probably the first time in my life. I think I'm just gonna say that, and then I'm gonna tell you that he planned a wonderful weekend for our first date. We crossed the border to go into another country so that I can have my passport doubly stamped because he knows that's really important to me. I've got such a terrible cold, it looks like I've been crying. Yes, I know I should cry at these details, but I really do just have a cold. He planned ahead and he looked at all of the reviews of all of the places and talked to so many of his friends, including the art teacher. Knowing that I speak fluent Spanish, he found a fabulously authentic Mexican restaurant in the middle of the Middle Eastern desert, and we go have the most delicious meal probably of my life. This Mexican restaurant is absolutely blown away by the fact that this gringa has walked into their door speaking pretty decently fluent Spanish, and there is a mariachi band. Oh my gosh, do I love a good mariachi band. In fact, I have to show you the mariachi band because they're so good. We were the only couple in the restaurant making requests because the love of my life used to play in a Mexican banda for 10 years. So he knows so many standard Mexican songs, and they were rather impressed by this because my fiance's nickname when Mexican banda was El Grande Rojo. Yes, I said it with a gringa accent on purpose because it is so freaking hilarious. I still can't get over it. El Grande Rojo. It's the sign that they wrote for us upon arriving at the restaurant. And here is the special dessert that they made for us because we were the only ones making requests.
Ay, Dios mío. Un árbol de churros.
Because of the location of his international school, their work week is Sunday through Thursday. And so we go back to work the following day. I cannot tell you the joy that radiates off this man when he is in his element and teaching children about music. Watching him with his students, oh my gosh, if I hadn't fallen in love with him already, I most certainly would have fallen in love with him watching him teach. And loves my talent as well. He has me sing for his students. And some of the students have never heard an opera singer before. And watching their cute little faces look at me like with complete awe and amazement was probably, to this date, one of my favorite career points. Plus, he's sitting in the corner looking like this. Oh my gosh, I'm so in love. Remember his best friends of 12 years that are moving back to Minnesota that are going to be close to us? They invited us over for dinner, along with the art teacher because she's a big character in our story as well. Made us an amazing meal. And this was in their bathroom. You know they're a true Minnesotan if they've got cute little loons all over the house, don't you know? We had a fabulous time telling them about our meet cute story and telling them about how much we have in common. And all three of them were just like, so when's the wedding? We immediately knew upon landing, meeting, knowing that there was chemistry, knowing that we wanted to be together, we immediately started making steps towards our life together. Because of course it involves 6 other people. I'm not going to tell you a lot of information about my new will-be stepchildren because, you know, privacy and all those kinds of things. But I will say that walking into the house and meeting the children really felt like coming home. It really just felt normal and natural and easy and fun. And I already love the kids. Why wouldn't I? They're an extension of the love of my life. So we moved forward with everything. The first step was leaving the country so that he could talk to his kids alone, because I didn't want that kind of pressure on them, worrying about my emotional reaction while they had their own legitimate emotional reaction. Everybody was fine with it. Everybody was actually kind of excited about moving back to the United States because they've been thinking about it. But the eldest is graduating this year, so it makes sense that they would finish out the year. The thing I have to tell you is I basically started sending him engagement ring ideas as soon as I got home. I will tell you, however, in my opinion, after being on modern dating apps for 4 years, not necessarily being serious for the first couple of years, that the right person will never ever make you question whether they want to be with you or not. You will always know the next time that they will contact you. You will always know the next time that you will have a date or when you will physically see them. I had my next plane ticket booked immediately upon returning from the first trip. With the right person, you will never have to have the conversation of what are we, because you will just be. There will be no questions. I know it sounds cheesy and I know it sounds cliche, but from my experience, I have met some really wonderful people dating over the past 4 years. And ultimately, in the end, I just decided that that just wasn't how I wanted to be loved for the rest of my life. But I have questioned myself all along the way. This is the only decision in my life that I have not questioned. Granted, we have fully developed prefrontal cortexes. We're in our 40s. We've been there, done that, and we're both financially stable, which is huge. Do not ever let anybody question what your worth is or question where you stand in their life. It has always been very obvious to me. In fact, I was the jaded one. I was the one holding back because I've been through this mess for 4 years. And so I remained skeptical until I saw that man's face in person. Just because my story was a success story, I don't necessarily know if that means you should go back on the dating apps and give it another whirl. However, everybody else in the comment that found the love of their life has the same exact story. It happened when I was least expecting it, and it happened when I gave it one last freaking chance. Ugh, I hate telling you that because I was so ready to give up and just be done and just be happy with myself. Because I already was. I think the biggest lesson that I'm taking away from this whole situation is, even though I have every right to be completely jaded in life and that I have been burned in so many ways, my heart still remains open, because I would still rather be a person that is open to receiving love than being a person that is closed off from the world. And that's not just romantic relationships. That's with all relationships in my life. I have gone and met social media friends that have become some of my best friends on the planet, and I have met some that have burned me. And so, but I don't want to let that change me. I want to continue to be naive and to trust people blindly and to be open to new relationships, no matter what they are. Like I said, the most important people in my life right now were strangers less than 4 years ago on the internet. I think that's a new series I'm going to start, is the most important people in my life were strangers on the internet 4 years ago.
Well, hi there, it's that Midwestern mom, and we're back for, I guess, part 4 of our meet cute story. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of my fiance's green flags and some of the reasons that I fell in love with him. AKA a list of things that would put a low-effort boyfriend into a coma. I remember very early on, we started talking about me visiting him in the Middle East, and one of the first things he asked me was, "Are you going to need a clothing iron while you're here?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I don't own a clothing iron anymore because I just send my shirts out to a dry cleaner when they need to be pressed. But you always look so professional and put together," because I had shown him, like the airline series and the travel documentary that I'm doing. He's like, "Clearly you need a clothing iron while you're here. I can run out and get one for you if you want." I said, "No, I can figure it out. I'll just steam my clothes in the shower if I need to," what I usually do when I'm traveling. But I remember making a friends only social media post, and I said, "How early is too early to get married?" Because I'm pretty sure that just him thinking ahead, wondering if I needed a clothing iron, was enough for me to marry this man. But piggybacking off of that, he said, "Is there anything else I can get you from my house to make your experience here more comfortable?" And I said, "Well, actually, I do need a hairdryer." Because, of course, appliances where he lives are at 220 voltage and we're at 120 in the United States. And he said, "Okay, what kind of hairdryer do you use?" And I said, "Well, my mom always gets me a Dyson because she's a hairdresser and she can get them secondhand, blah, blah, blah. But I don't expect you to get me a Dyson." No. He goes on to the interwebs and he finds a very decently priced Dyson hairdryer. I said, "Yeah, that's actually a really fantastic price. That's about half of what we pay over here." And so he buys me 2 of them, one to keep at his house and one to travel with me in my suitcases for all of the trips that I've been taking around the world this year. Let me tell you, life-changing that I get to have a Dyson hairdryer go with me wherever I want. Remember, as we were talking for a whole month before we even met in person, he had widgets on his phone of the time zone where I lived and the time zone where I was currently at, because I traveled a lot before I saw him. So he always knew what time it was, and we always made a plan for when we were going to have our next phone conversation. How many times did I wait for a simple text back from somebody I was talking to on the dating apps, wondering when the heck I was going to see them again? Remember, folks, your person will never leave you wondering where you stand in their life. Let us not forget that he also has a 78-page PowerPoint about my life and my friends and family, because every single time I told him about a new character in my life, he asked for a photo and he added it to the PowerPoint. It's now 78 pages long and he references it often and he updates it whenever he needs to. From very early on, he started making a playlist of songs that reminded him of me. A lot of them had to do with love. A lot of them were in foreign languages because remember, he loves Eurovision, and a lot of them were in languages that I speak, but he doesn't. I want to say it's over 100 songs long already, and we don't add to it daily like we used to, but we do update it at least once a week, and it's so precious when I get a new song. Oh yes, and don't forget, in part 2 of my Meet Cute story, I told you about the fact that I was doing my hair curlers while I was talking to him when I was at the Minnesota State Fair. And remember, you got to put your hair curlers in like this and your arms are always above your head. And so he asked if I thought that my mom could teach him how to do my hair curlers for me, because I can't always take my mom, the hairdresser, with me wherever I go, but I can take him wherever I go. Because he realized from the situation, if he were putting curlers in my hair, I could be doing my makeup, which meant I could get out of the house faster. Because he's lived and taught in China, and I hate to tell you that my adorable mug is from his house and from his time spent in China about 12 years ago. He coyly asked me in conversation one day if I had heard of the importance of a 100-day anniversary in Chinese culture. And I said, yeah, I had, because some of my mom friends are Chinese, and I think they're supposed to stay in the house for 100 days after having a baby. But nevertheless, they have a 100-day photo shoot after a baby is born. So the next day, 100 sunflowers show up delivered on my doorstep. Because why? Because it had been 100 days since we matched on Bumble, and because sunflowers remind him of me, because I am his ray of sunshine. Really, what's the important part of that story? It's not really the 100 sunflowers. That was absolutely adorable. However, the fact that I knew he had prefaced these 100 sunflowers showing up on my doorstep, making sure that I understood how important the 100-day anniversary is. This one, I suppose, isn't really a green flag, as it's kind of serendipitous, but his birthstone is an amethyst. And I have always been jealous of people that were born in February, because I wanted my birthstone to be an amethyst, because purple is my favorite color, which is the reason why I chose a purple stone for my engagement ring. But now I get to have an amethyst in jewelry, and it has meaning to it. And I just think that is like over cute. I can't believe I forgot to preface the green flag checklist by the fact that he does not drink, he does not smoke, he does not gamble, he doesn't play sports, talk about sports, obsess over sports, or let his mood be affected by sports whatsoever. I've got a lot of trauma there, if you can't tell. So what does he do for fun? He does things like learn my favorite karaoke songs on piano and guitar so that we can sing and play together when we're together. We also do the New York Times crossword puzzle every morning together, his morning, my evening, because I have a lot of French, Spanish, and foreign language knowledge, and like opera classical music knowledge that kind of complements all of his trivia knowledge. And remember, he didn't have social media before he met me, and so in his spare time, he listens to like the new Rosalia album as he goes out for a walk, and then he sends me the favorite songs from the album so that like I can be more educated about the amazing music that he's exposed to every day. He's a very dedicated, wonderful, amazing music teacher. What a green flag it is to watch that man teach, connect with his students, and just radiate with joy and pride every time he steps foot into the classroom. I cannot express to you what a green flag it is that you are both musicians, that you have both had the same experiences in university and performing and making money at music and teaching children music. I do not come from musical talent whatsoever. I was the oddball that decided to become an opera singer. And so the fact that my partner for the rest of my life went to music school and understands everything that I'm talking about and regularly teaches me new things, it's like a whole new world. I cannot even express to you how amazing that is. A huge green flag for me is when he says he's going to do something, he just stands up and goes and does it. He needed a doctor's appointment. He literally made it that day. What do you mean you called your doctor's office and you made a doctor's appointment that day when you said that you needed a doctor's appointment and you didn't need to fret and think about it and rehearse it in your head for 7-10 weeks? You just made a doctor's appointment and then you went to the doctor's appointment the like very next day? He is now in charge of making all of my doctor's appointments. He's an avid reader. He's read things I've never heard of, amazing intellectual things, and across all spectrums. He doesn't have a particular genre that he really loves. And so when I mentioned that I was good friends with Abby Jimenez and she's one of the characters in my PowerPoint, he drops everything and gets on the Libby app and starts checking out Abby's books and reads them from the beginning to the end. Because why? Because it's really important to me and because it involves one of the characters in my life and he wants to know more about my life. I also, in passing, mentioned I hadn't had time to read Abby's latest book. And so he buys the book, one copy for me, one copy for him, so that he can read it to me over FaceTime or over voice notes or when we are together in person. Yes, you heard me say that correctly. He's reading me my friend Abby Jimenez's last romance novel. We are reading it together. And I think the biggest green flag of all is he is thoroughly invested in my life and this platform that I have built and wants nothing more than to be a support network for me. In fact, the analogy that he used is, I want you to be the famous trapeze artist and I will be the safety net below you to catch you so you can take more risks. He doesn't just mean financially. He means the emotional support as well and the house carrying tasks as well. He can't wait to build better systems of organization for me to keep me better on track and to get my mind thinking creatively so that I can let go of the daily tasks and focus on creativity. He can't wait to be here to help organize my life because that is his strength. My strength is the creativity. So when I tell you that I don't think I could have 3D printed a better partner, I feel like I'm 100% telling the truth. And another green flag to leave you with, when I told him I was going to tell you guys about all of his green flags, he said, "You're telling all of these wonderful things to the internet about me, but when do I get to tell them all of your wonderful qualities?" So in the next episode, I will cold read his list of my green flags and the reason why I am perfect for him. And I have a feeling I'm gonna get emotional. Have a good night, my little marshmallows. Oh, hi there. It's that Midwestern mom. I've been avoiding making this video because I have a really hard time talking nicely about myself. So here is my fiance's list of green flags as to why I am perfect for him. I have not read it yet. Here's a cold reading. Amber's green flags. This was such an easy list to write. You are perfect for me and I enjoy articulating the reasons why. It's categorized. You are already whole. Your profile said, "I love my life as is, but there's always room for more." You don't need someone to complete you, but you want a partner. You inherit kindness. You don't just talk about doing good, you actively live it. You are leaving the world a better place than you found it. We're trying. Your natural positivity. You bring joy into the world every day and people seem brighter simply by being around you. Your genuine authenticity. Of course, you have a character, but you're exactly the same person in public and private. It's not a performance, just you. Except you might curse like a truck driver in real life. I was raised by a truck driver. Your amazing kids. They are thoughtful, intelligent, capable, and kind. They reflect the mom who has been there and showed up for them every single day of their lives. Your emotional intelligence. You've done the work. You're ready for a mature and healthy relationship. Oh my gosh, you guys. I told you I was going to get emotional, but it's been kind of a rough few months in Minnesota, you know? Your trusting nature. This one gets me in trouble. You believe in the inherent goodness of people. To me, your willingness to trust also means you are trustworthy. Your resilience. You've been through a lot, but you haven't let it dim your light. Your deep intelligence. I'm constantly learning from you, and you even help me solve my crossword puzzles. Your wide range of talents. Opera singing, speaking Spanish and French and Italian, your music in general, ice skating, what can't you do? Your creativity, no one can do what you do. Your ability to connect. I've seen how you draw people in instantly and make them feel truly seen and heard. It's a gift, but also because you genuinely care about other people. Your healthy friendships. That is true. I have really amazing people in my life. You have good, kind people in your life. If you can judge a person by the company they keep, then I know all I need to know from your friends. Your love of children. As a teacher, this is important for me. The warmth and joy you show towards children is a reflection of how you care about people, especially the most vulnerable. Your musicianship. You are honestly a better musician than me, and I admire it and love it. That's lies. He's a better musician than I am. Your humor. You are so funny and can always make me laugh. Even your ability to laugh at yourself is a huge green flag. Your acceptance of everyone. You genuinely want people to feel safe and loved and able to be their truest selves. And you already embody my personal core values, kindness, curiosity, and humility. You don't have to think about them. It's just who you are. And I love that I get to have all of you. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I have a really hard time talking nicely and kindly about myself. I can talk kindly about everybody else but myself. So I want to leave you with this story. I was in Switzerland on one of my redemption hikes, one of the things that I was told I wouldn't ever be able to do. And along the way, I picked up a stranger. His name was Bailey. He was in his mid-20s. He was in Switzerland for a very similar reason.
I told him, if you're here to date somebody, don't hang out with the old lady. But if you need to have a translator and if you need to know more about Switzerland so that you can go on some more amazing hikes, hang out with me. And so we did a lot of epic hikes. And one of the days we were getting onto a commuter train to start the beginning of a hike, this young gentleman asked me, other than your social media, your opera singing, and your children, because that's what you talk about the most, what are you most proud of yourself for? What qualities do you like the most about yourself? And I immediately said, I love how children and animals seem to be drawn to me. I have never met a child that didn't like me. My mom said that I used to get in trouble when I was in the church nursery basement because I would always be carrying around the babies. And the nursery keepers would say, you're too young to be carrying those babies. And I would look at them like, what's wrong with you? I'm obviously already carrying this baby. So clearly I'm old enough to hold a baby. I said, I don't know what it is, but children seem to inherently trust me. And I really love that quality about myself. As we were boarding the train, I also mentioned that I love it even more when I discover a child speaks one of the languages that I happen to speak, because you can connect with children in whatever language, it doesn't matter. But when you speak their language, they immediately light up. And we were on the border of the French-speaking cantons and the German-speaking cantons, and so you never really know who's speaking what language in Switzerland. So we get onto the train, and this little boy says to his mom in French, he's in a poussette, he's in a stroller, and he says to his mom in French, he says, "Mommy, why does that lady have those strange canes in her hand?" Having understood it, I said, "Oh, these are my walking sticks. I'm getting old and my knees hurt, and so I use these to help me walk through the mountains." And this young gentleman, Bailey, having spoken French and he doesn't speak French, he looked at me and he said, "Are you kidding me? Like, is that a paid actor in your life? Did you plan this?" And I said, "No, I just really like kids." I don't know why I told you that story, but it's one of my favorites. I really look back on that day with a lot of fondness for the friend that I made, the literal mountain that I climbed and the emotional mountain that I climbed, because when you've been through what I've been through to get here to this day and to have the relationships in my life that I currently have, it's necessary to remind yourself that it's okay to like yourself. It's okay to love yourself, and it's okay to enjoy keeping your own company and giving your gifts to the world, because you are also important. Your children come first for now, but eventually they will grow up and fly away, and then you are left with yourself. And I think one of the reasons why this insanely amazing love doesn't scare me is because I'm perfectly happy on my own, and there's always room for more. I just want to tell you, my little marshmallows, that you are a huge part of my healing journey, and I don't think that I could have gotten here without you. I was very broken when I first got on these platforms, and you were a huge part of my healing, making me recognize these qualities in myself, because you reflected them back to me, and you told me in the comments hundreds of times, and I really needed that at that point in my life. And so I hope I can give it back to you in some way. I love you.
Oh, hi there, it's that Midwestern mom, and if you missed the memo, I'm engaged, and here's part 6 of my meet cute story. And I thought I would tell you about my engagement ring, because honestly, I haven't really decided how much more of my story that I want to tell you, because some of these things, you gotta keep for yourself. So anyway, here is the story of my very non-traditional engagement ring. I decided very early on that I did not want a diamond. I do not like diamonds. I didn't want to be any part of the diamond industry. And I told my then boyfriend that. He was like, "Oh my goodness, that makes me love you even more." It was also really important to me that my ring had a story. I didn't want it to be some ring that we bought online, because of course we could do that. But he lives in a place where there's easy access to generational goldsmiths. And so I said, let's have a ring custom made here where you live. And if you're new here, he does live in the Middle East, but I have never specified which country, because, safety and security, which he is safe and secure right now, as we think about everything that is happening over there, and everything that is not going right now, which is very scary and very sad. And we're going to keep continuing to bring joy and positivity in the world, because joy and positivity are resistance. Okay? So to properly tell you the story of how this engagement ring came to be, I have to go back to tell you about a man that I dated a long time ago, and we never really had a spark, but we continued to stay friends. He got married about 6 to 8 months after we met, and I told him he was crazy, and he just simply said to me, when you know, you know. Well, case in point, when you know, you know. I called him up, 5 years later, and I said, I have to apologize for calling you crazy when you told me you were getting married. And he asked, why is that? And I said, well, you were completely right. When you know, you know. I find myself getting engaged. And he said, congratulations. That's exactly how it happened for us. Have you thought about an engagement ring? And I told him, but we're looking for a gemstone because we want to have something custom made where he lives. It's hard to get a hold of a gemstone, so I'm probably going to have to source one in the United States and bring it over there. Because I told my friend I originally wanted a purple amethyst, but amethysts fade over time and they chip really easily, so you shouldn't use them in engagement rings. And so my fiance quickly discovered that we should have a sapphire. But I also told him I didn't want something that was so purple it looked like the Minnesota Vikings because I really prefer yellow gold. So I needed something warm toned, aka pink/purple. And he said, you have to talk to my jeweler because she'll know exactly what you're talking about. Salt Hill Jewelry in Fargo, North Dakota. My fiance got in touch with them, had them ship like 5 or 6 sapphires for me to look at. I chose one and it flew with me across the ocean to where he lives. I had picked out several designs on Pinterest. And the thing that was most important to me was that it was a solid circular band because a lot of times when you set a gemstone, there's like a hole behind it. And I thought that would be really uncomfortable. So I showed him several designs of things that I wanted to merge together. He made an illustration for us right then and there. This jeweler is probably close to his 80s or 90s, but his nephew went to college to learn how to make 3D renderings. So they did a picture of the 3D print up and then they 3D printed the ring so that I could go back to the jewelry store a week later and approve the design. Surrounded by moissanite because both moissanite and sapphire are a 9 on the hardness scale. Sapphires actually chip less easily than diamonds. They just scratch a little bit easier than diamonds. Even though I saw the 3D print up, I did not see the ring until he proposed with it. And in fact, when he did propose, I didn't think to bring my reading glasses with, so I couldn't even see all the details until I got home to my bifocals. The purple pink sapphire is from Sri Lanka, which was also really important to us because it seems for the most part that Sri Lankan miners are treated ethically and fairly for their labors. And then it was custom made by a generational goldsmith in the Middle East, where my fiance is currently living and teaching. Not only do I have a beautiful piece of jewelry, but it has a priceless story, just like I hoped for, because of you.